Let's make some money in the Music City as NASCAR heads to Nashville. We break down our best bets and DFS tiers next on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
Two for the spades.
What's going on, everyone? Happy Thursday night. I was messing with my camera there. We're going to recenter myself a little bit here before we get too far. But while I do that, I'll tell you, this is the Backroad. It's in between media's fantasy NASCAR betting show. Elliot Hicks and Seth Woolcock here. We're going to break down New Hampshire and react to some NASCAR news from the week, and then break down Nashville, give you our best bets for the triple header back this weekend, Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series. And we'll round it out with our DFS rankings as always, and hopefully chop it up with some of the IBT family as the night goes on.
Elliot, stoked to be here with both yourself and the IBT family, man. Vibes are incredibly high right now. I feel like we've been on the right side of things the last couple of weeks. Almost had a really big week last week. If we could have done the rain dance a little bit longer into the night, I think we were both walking away very happy, but still in the green for 3 straight weeks. One of the longest heaters we've been on in a while. So super thankful for that. Super thankful for the IBT family. Had a lot of support this week. Did the first Betting Pros NASCAR podcast earlier this week with Tampa Tim's from Dirty Mo Doe. So that was really cool, man. And got some really positive feedback from all the IBT family members over there. So I appreciate that, Elliot.
Yeah, we love the crew that checks all our stuff out. Already got some people in the chat here. We're excited to talk with you guys in a minute here. But we'll start off and break down New Hampshire here in the rear view.
Yeah, let's get it fired up.
So as we alluded to, it was a pretty rainy weekend up there in Loudon, New Hampshire. Both series ended up using the rain tires for a decent portion of their races. Yeah, but it was the same winner in both of the series. Just like I said on the show last week, Christopher Bell ends up taking Xfinity, but it happened in more of a roundabout way than I thought. And he also, he finished off the sweep in a race that, in most eras of NASCAR, even before this year, they would have called that son of a gun with 82 laps to go or whatever we had. But the wet weather tires are here, and we've seen that they work in a decent setting, and it ends up Christopher Bell being able to sweep the weekend because of the race continuing.
Yeah, man, it was tough. We were on that Tyler Reddick outright, and we were kind of praying to the good Lord that it wouldn't come back green. It ends up coming back green, and that's what happens sometimes when you're out here betting motorsports, something as unpredictable as this. But shout out Chris Bell, had the best car all weekend, was the best driver all weekend. I don't think that was a surprise to either one of us. We just weren't down on him because he was 4-1, and that's tough to bet Chris Bell with, the shit he usually goes through. So that was tough, and definitely like some questionable, like I voted no in the good race poll personally, just because I didn't like how NASCAR just continues to like hold everyone's hand. I get like pit road and safety for the pit crew members, and hey, let's not have active live pit stops. I'm cool with that completely, but I liked, if the drivers would have the option a little bit here, Elliot. Like, and it seemed like the broadcast had no idea what was happening. One lap, Steve Letarte thought they were coming down to pit. The next, they didn't. So I don't know. That kind of ruined things for me, soured me a little bit. Definitely had to like just put the TV remote down after that race and walk away. And I'm sure you did as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild because there were even some situations where NASCAR, when a yellow came out, said, all right, nobody's changing tires, nobody's pitting. Everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? These tires are worn out. We're all going to be screwed. So then the next lap, they're like, okay, everyone come in, change tires. The thing that, I see it twofold because they wanted to manage the tire runs and all that stuff. Obviously, non-competitive pit stops was smart, but they wanted to, they said, we don't have enough data to know how these are going to prepare. My point that I made was, you want the data, here's your guinea pigs right here. If you have crew chiefs that want to strategize, want to go for a really long run on these tires, or want to go on a short run, or even want to put on slicks late in the race, you may as well let them. If they totally screw their race over, it's no different than a different pit strategy. But I also see the people that, I see it both ways. You want to be able to manage things. You don't want a complete shit show, but then there are some people that the total control ends up being a shit show in its own right.
Consistency. That is what we're looking for out of NASCAR. I was one of the big losers at Charlotte because they didn't go back green, and now we're kind of on the other
Yep.
side of this. So
We all were losers when that Charlotte race didn't go back green.
yeah, it looks like Mark also kind of getting burned here. He said we were still screwed, too humid to restart. Then Brad got hosed. It was tough, man. Like, it sucks. It's part of it. It's what we get into this for. Charles in the chat saying I'm glad they used the rain tires more than just to start the race in damp conditions. Yeah, it's cool to see those tires out there, Elliot. It's cool to see them all kind of all over the track, and it led to some really good racing. And it was funny because like the dirt trackers were kind of the guys who figured it out first. The Briscoes, the Bells, the Larsons of the world, it seemed like. But hey, we got some shout outs to give as well. Shout out Josh Berry. We were all over him last week. Wish I would have bet a top 3 on him. I was just on the matchup and the outright. I watched that race back though later on Monday. I had to catch the end of it. Fell asleep watching it Sunday night, and man, I was like, am I really about to cash a Josh Berry like 40-1 ticket right now? And it was not meant to be, and neither were some of your long shot bets that, hey, I got to give you credit for, man. You swung a hot bat last week. It just didn't come to fruition once we went back green.
Right. I was able to hit a couple bets, hit a matchup on Larson over Blaney because of Blaney's bad luck with Michael McDowell just absolutely sending it. A couple of those manufacturer bets. Yeah, we can talk about that in a little if we want to. But I hit the over 3.5 Toyotas in the top 10 and the under 3.5 Chevys. I had the Berry top 5. I also bet the live outright and Ford to win. Those obviously didn't hit. The top 5 did. But worst beat I've ever had in NASCAR betting. Something on Sunday morning drew me to one of those exactas that I used to bet all the time.
Yeah.
Big time odds. You get 2 positions right. I didn't throw down as much as I would have before, but I saw an exacta. First, Christopher Bell. Second, Josh Berry. We liked Berry. We really liked Bell, and the odds were 30-1. So I put a little sprinkle on it. We come to the end of the race. I'm already bummed out because Todd Gilliland by that point's fallen outside the top 10. Justin Haley's had his problems. I was all excited to the point where I'd already clipped out the part of the show during the rain delay. Gilliland was 4th and Haley was 5th. Both of those that I called my bets of the week last week were not only going to hit, but they could have hit even better had I called out a top 5. That didn't work out. But my spirits are high because Josh Berry's running 2nd and Bell is running 1st, and that is just about to hit. Bell crosses the finish line. Then Briscoe comes to the inside of Berry, snipes him for 2nd place. My bet doesn't hit. Got to love those bad beats, but hey, you're going to have that stuff happen. And just to come that close, and like you said, swinging a hot bat, even if, it was a pretty loud home run. We hit it to the warning track and it was caught for an out, so not a home run. Almost there. I'll certainly take that.
Profit is profit in this game, man. Like seeing green is always good. It probably would have been a 10 or 12 unit swing for you if things broke your way. Same with me. I end up with about a half a unit in the green, but hey, we're still still in this game. Charles also, this is another one of my bad beats over the weekend. Bunts in your top 5 would have put me up more. I was right there with you, Chuck. So feelings hurt. I understand a lot of fuckery in those races, but Loudon still does put on a show. I like Loudon. I think it's a good track. I miss Eric Almirola up there though. I need him back in my life.
Yeah, unfortunately that suspension, as it was revealed today, took him out of the car for that. And another thing I was going to mention about the rain tires was I know a lot of people when they end up throwing the red flag, and it didn't really start raining for 20 to 25 minutes after they had already pulled the cars down. Yeah, a lot of people were clamoring, why aren't we using those wet weather tires now? I like that they didn't, they didn't want to throw it out there, run, 25 laps or something on, starting to rain a little bit, because they're not meant for the rain. They're meant just to run in the damp, and you could have created a really worse situation there. And, some people will say, well, they ran the latter half of the race in really different conditions than the first half. Maybe it's almost a joke of a race. Would have been even more of a joke if you run it clean, then pull down for wet weather, run 25 more laps, and then either have it rained out or something else crazy happen. So a lot of people were clamoring for that, but I do like to split it off. Either run it in the damp or run it to start. Don't run it as it's starting to rain before the rain gets really bad. Yeah,
I think that's a good call. Mark's saying they should have live pit stops. Don't gimmick the race. I get it. It is gimmicky. It kind of sucks from a viewing perspective, but it's not safe, man. Like last thing you want is a driver sliding too far on some wet paint, past their stall and pinching someone up against, another car, and then someone dies. Like that's the last thing we want, right? Like it's not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Dale Jr. brought up too. He mentioned being at Atlanta the most recent time that unfortunately we lost a pit crew member just before the implementation of pit road speed limits, and we did see a lot of talented drivers that really know what they're doing they get in that wet paint in the damp, and they just, Noah Gragson did it. Somebody else definitely slid on it. It would have just been unsafe. You could have had not having the gimmicks by having the team select, when to put on this tire or that tire. But I do understand, especially with the safety concerns, to not have the non-competitive pit stops.
100% agreed with you. We're going to put the short flats in the rear view, though. We had a great little heater with them. We were really close to some big ones. We had some good days like at Iowa. We do have some news to get to before we get to our handicapping for the night, though. And it starts with Chase Briscoe, Elliot, officially signs with Joe Gibbs Racing. This was kind of one of those bad kept secrets after, the initial inkling came out a couple weeks ago. And I definitely wasn't surprised by this at all. We did hear that he did turn down the Wood brothers for this ride. Also, though, I was surprised that, hey, it looks like Johnny Morrison, Bass Pro Shop, they're going to stay on with him. That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, definitely nice that Bass Pro is going to stay there. We weren't sure if they were going to ride off in the sunset from that JGR ride, and Briscoe would have to bring his own sponsorship. Gibbs, in fact, was the only team that didn't ask him, what can you bring to the table sponsorship-wise? And obviously, Wood brothers, prestigious, can be a good car with a good driver. Front row, the program on an upswing, that could have been good too. But to get in a Joe Gibbs racing car, if you get that opportunity, you don't want to turn that down. And good for Chase Briscoe. Even Tony Stewart was hyped for him. They got that wrapped up, I think, within a week or a week to 10 days after the announcement. Tony Stewart was stoked. Joe Gibbs was calling Chase Briscoe a couple times a day saying, man, we want you in this car. It looks like it's going to stay the number 19. I know some people had said maybe go back to the 18. They don't have plans for that right now. Seems like Bass Pro is going to be a primary sponsor. They'll be on the Daytona 500 ride, Bob Pocker said, but I don't know if it'll be full season, as many as they did with Truex. That's all to be determined, but great that they're staying on. And a good opportunity for Briscoe. Stewart-Haas Racing has not been in the best place since he went there, but he's had some good runs, obviously got that win in Phoenix. Very deserving of this ride, and almost a Truex-type guy. We know he's got talent. He hasn't been in the best equipment. Let's see what he can do in one of the top rides in the sport.
This is what this guy's been working for his entire career. And here in the Cup Series, he's kind of really made his hay on the short flats. We have that win at Phoenix. He's been close before at Martinsville, Gateway. So, yeah, man, I think Chase Briscoe, it's good to see that I think the most talented, most ready driver got put in a car for once instead of just, the guy who had the most money. I think that gives me a little bit of hope for the next generation of stock car racers, Elliot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That'll be exciting to see. Probably will be the most watched silly season move heading into next year's Daytona 500.
I want to say this. Where would you put the betting line for wins for next year with Briscoe? I bet it will be at 1.5. Guaranteed that'll probably be the number.
Yep.
Let's say it's even odds on both sides. Would you take the over?
I'm going to take the under only because Truex hasn't gotten the wins in that car. And I know he's a little past his prime. But, last year, I forget off the top of my head how many wins he had, but, pretty crummy stretch in the playoffs there. Hasn't been to victory lane yet this year. I think Briscoe's talented. Obviously he's more in his prime as a driver than Martin Truex is at this point in his mid-40s. I think 1.5 is the right number. I'm probably going to take the under, but it would not surprise me to see the over hit.
Yeah, that'll be one I'm sure we're going to circle back to in the offseason when we see that line drop. And if there's enough plus money on the over, I might hop on it. I'm gonna be honest. That I've been a big Briscoe guy ever since that Xfinity run in 2020 when he won 9 times. So yeah, I'm just really, really happy to see this. Congrats to him. Congrats to JGR from getting it done. And Elliot, we had some kind of sad news this week in the NASCAR industry as well. RCR Vice President Andy Petree is retiring. Like we usually want to talk about personnel moves, but I think this is one that's pretty important. Kind of just says like the state of potentially what's going on over at RCR a little bit. I think we just got to keep fading them. Vibes aren't great. Your thoughts on what Andy Petree meant to RCR as he steps down just after under a year of getting a really nice promotion to VP?
Yeah, he definitely had been involved pretty tightly there with RCR. We know one thing, we probably won't see him back at Pocono yelling at a traffic cop, hey, I'm right down there in that hotel. If you didn't hear the story last year, we're coming out of Pocono after Xfinity. We're trying to turn left. They only are sending people out right. The guy in front of us is, kind of making a stir with this traffic cop. Guy gets out of the car.
He's bitching him out. He's bitching him out.
Yeah. Guy gets out of the car. It's Andy Petree. He says, man, my hotel's right over there. I don't want to turn right. I want to turn left. So they let him go through. We ended up going through right behind him. Turns out we would have been better off going right than going left. But either way, neat experience. But back to Andy Petree as a personnel here. Obviously, big part of RCR. I feel like we saw him almost a little more on the Xfinity side than the Cup side. Maybe that's just because of what happened last year at Martinsville with Creed and Hill. But honestly, I don't know that we really knew the scope of what Petree did day to day in the shop. Was
True.
he just one of those kind of a guy who like oversaw things, was a motivator, was a guy who knows racing rather than a super technical guy? I kind of think this may have been coming anyway at the end of the year. Maybe he's in a spot where, does he want to be traveling to the racetrack every single week? We know he
Right.
has the background in broadcasting. There's going to be broadcasting jobs with TNT and Amazon Prime next year. Could this just have been a little bit of an early exit for Petree? Hey, if things aren't going so well here right now, we'll let you go off into your retirement here, take the rest of the year, figure out what you want to do. Maybe we see him with another team. Maybe we see him in the broadcast booth next year. Regardless, like you said, it is a sign that things are not going as RCR wants things to go. And this can kind of be, even if it's just a little, like in baseball, sometimes nothing will really happen, but a manager will get ejected just to fire up the team and hope that they do well the rest of the year. This is almost one of those things where, all right, this guy's out the door. Let's see if it can spark some of these other guys to start improving things in shop.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. It's been tough sledding. Like Austin Dillon's back in the 30 plus in points right now. Kyle Busch continues to slide as well. Didn't want to talk to the media after leaving last week's race early. So yeah, it's tough times over there at RCR, but I think at the end of the day, like this is still a historical NASCAR team. They're very decorated and they have talent in the pipeline still. Like you have Austin Hill down there. Say what you want about him, the guy can win, especially at Superspeedways. And Jesse Love, perhaps I would argue maybe a top 5 prospect in the sport. So yeah, it may be brighter days ahead for RCR.
Yeah, I mean we'll have to wait and see. So much changes in this day and age. The prospects and things like that. They got 2 older drivers in there. Maybe some of it's the drivers being out of their prime. Maybe some of it's the team. Be interesting to watch regardless what happens over there.
And let's round it out here with some other news that hit the wire this week. NASCAR to remove Atlanta, Wakins, Glen, and Homestead from the playoffs in 2025. They'll be placing in New Hampshire, Gateway, and Darlington. This coming from our guy Jordan Bianchi over there at Dirty Mo's Teardown, and also from The Athletic. Your thoughts on this news as a whole and how it could affect us from a NASCAR fan perspective and also from a gambling perspective here in 2025?
Yeah, these are some interesting moves. It'll be weird. I think half the playoffs next year are going to be shorter tracks, which will be kind of interesting. Guys already who were good at short tracks kind of had an advantage to win the title because of Phoenix being the finale. Now I think they'll have almost even more of an advantage. You're putting in New Hampshire, you're putting in Gateway, you're taking out the Superspeedway in Atlanta, you're taking out the road course in the Glen, and you're taking out a really good track in Homestead. I almost am slamming whatever Chris Bell's championship number is next year with this. If he can get in, he can win half the playoff races and end up doing it. But so I think, what we grew up on, Seth, was the schedule was pretty much the same every year. Very rarely were there any changes to the Cup schedule.
Certainly.
I remember it being big news when they added Kentucky in 2011. Like, holy crap, we're going to a new track. A little bit before COVID and since COVID, we've had a lot more of that. And we'll continue to have a lot more of that. Of course, rumors that Homestead really wants the finale back in 2026. That is a realistic chance of happening. We already knew that Darlington was going to be back in the playoffs. The only reason it's not this year is the 2-week Olympic break, which is affecting scheduling and things like that. They wanted to keep it on Labor Day weekend. Gateway, I mean, they've really promoted that event well. They've got a lot of good attendance there. I guess this is a little reward while the schedule's kind of in limbo. All right, you guys have done well. The races haven't been terrible. We'll put you in the playoffs. New Hampshire used to kick off the playoffs. That one's a little more confusing. Generally, I think it'll pretty much even out. One less road course, I think will make a lot of guys happy, even if it's not going to be quite as competitive. And, we'll probably see some more moving and shaking in the playoffs in 26 as well.
Yeah, way more fuckery is going to happen this year in 2024. And then removing Atlanta, removing Watkins Glen, I think you'll have a better playoff overall. Realistically, I think you'll find a better champion because of that. But yeah, it's still some question marks, man. Like Homestead coming out, I think Junior put it on his pod, just doesn't feel right. Like Homestead is one of the premier races, and maybe it's just a 1-year thing. I think that's what everyone's kind of hoping and thinking. So we can cross our fingers on that moves back in. But yeah, I will honestly say, like Christopher Bell, if he's not a favorite in 2025 based off what he's already done here this season, God damn, this makes him even more attractive, man. Like he's definitely one of those drivers on those short flats. We're moving 2 of them into the playoffs, and hey, maybe it's a sign of things to come that they're trusting the short track package will improve too. So fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed on all of it. It's definitely a little dicey.
Yeah, and I think the schedule will continue to shift. Like I was saying, Homestead was out of the playoffs in 20 and 21, I think. at least for 20, they
Yeah.
were they had those races earlier in the year. So I think we'll see the schedule move a little more. Probably a 1-year thing for Homestead to be out. Of course, that's just speculation too.
Sure.
But it's been such good racing that I don't see how you could keep it out of the premier 10 races for too long.
They want it, man. They're willing to offer up money from what we're hearing out there, from a couple of different camps. And we know Phoenix, like the city is paying NASCAR to host that event there. It's something they love, so it's going to be hard to like kind of pry it from their hands. But you never know. It'd be awesome for the sport, man. I think we'd have a lot more fun going to Phoenix or going to Homestead rather than Phoenix at the end of the year. So, yeah, it's a pipe dream. We'll see what happens, though, man. But, good to at least at the end of the day. I think the one bright spot thing we can say is NASCAR is not silent. They're not afraid to make moves, ship things around, and hopefully get some more tracks in there as well. So excited to see how it all plays out here at the end of the year. But what do you say we look forward now and talk a little Nashville?
Yeah, to be able to dress for success for our bets this week, we got to take a look at what the track looks like first, and let's do so in the Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
So Nashville's kind of interesting because it's got some traits that the cookie cutter mile and a halfs do, but it's also got some traits that are similar to some shorter tracks or a track like Dover. I think you have it right here, Seth, that there really isn't a true comp track to Nashville.
Yeah, it's a unique 1.33 mile concrete D-shaped oval. That's the easiest way to put it in non-technical terms. And it really is a hybrid between Dover and those high-speed mile and a half tracks. It's concrete, though, which makes you think Dover. So I really did weigh Dover more heavy than anything. No true comp, though. And then we can look at other races or racetracks that we've been to this season: Las Vegas, Texas, Kansas, Charlotte. It's kind of straightforward, honestly, like in a way, but at the same time, we only have 3 races here in the Cup Series history. We only have 2 in the next gen. So kind of tough at the same time, but I'm really looking at Dover. I'm really looking at the last 2 Nashville races. And of course, I'm also going to be looking a little bit at Las Vegas, Texas, Kansas, Charlotte as well, Elliot.
Yeah, obviously I took into factor those, but honestly, I just looked real heavy at the Nashville stats. I feel like that this race in particular has been kind of its own thing in the last couple of years. So I think that will stay the same. Obviously, you still look at the comp tracks, obviously look at how guys are doing lately, like I said. But really, I'm weighing how good you are at Nashville, because it is really unique. It's not, at Vegas, a place like Vegas, you really can weigh on all the mile and a halves. And it's short tracks, you have more similarities there too. Nashville's Nashville. I think it's going to be a wild weekend down there.
Yeah, I'm honestly too, like, I am weighing momentum in recent form a little bit this week, but we've kind of been on just a different set of tracks lately. We've been on short tracks. We've been on road courses. So I think now we're going to kind of see the cream of the crop rise back up. The guys we were betting on, putting it high in our DFS tiers every single week to begin the season. I think those are the guys that I'm kind of shifting back to a little bit this week. We also have all 3 series back in action, Elliot, which is really fun to see here as we approach the summer, or kind of the dog days of summer is really where we're heading to right now. Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, truck race, Rackley Roofing 200. And then Saturday night is going to be the Xfinity race at 4 p.m. Eastern time, Cup qualifying at 1:05 p.m. Eastern time there on Saturday. And then Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Cup race, Ally 400. What do you think, Bowman? Little Ally love, man. He's running the Ally scheme. It looks dope. I'll give you that, my friend.
The car looks good. The stats don't. So we'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yeah. We got laps 90, 185, and 300 of the stage breaks there. Mark saying, how is Boyer 12-1? We'll touch on Boyer a little bit. I got some thoughts on him. I've been kicking some bets around in the truck series that we can touch on. Yeah, looking at some trends though here as well, Elliot. Again, not a ton of trends, but the winner has come from the top 5 each time in the 3 races that we have been to Nashville. Chevy is 3 for 3 winning in Nashville as well. Larson and Ross, no doubt about it. They've kind of been the cream of the crop here. Only drivers to finish in the top 5 in all 3 Nashville races. Move that back to the top 10. And hey, who's there? Christopher Bell, guy we've been talking a lot about the last couple weeks. And also no overtime finishes here in any of the 3 Cup Series races, or no issues with the weather. Are you expecting both those trends to continue?
Hopefully no issues with the weather. We've already talked. We've had our weather conversation.
Yeah.
For the summer. Hopefully, in terms of no overtime finishes, we probably should have had one in 2022. Brad Keselowski or whoever that was barely moving on the last 2 laps, but Chase is in the lead, so God forbid we throw a caution, right?
Yeah, I watched back that race. I could not believe they did not throw the one for Brad. I was like, all right, well, I guess who's leading? You got to let it play out there. But yeah, man, Chevy heavy. Like we're in Trackhouse's backyard. I see a comment here from Charles saying I'm peeping the Trackhouse shirt. You got some Trackhouse bets this week. Chastain top 5 plus 150 on Bovada. Yeah, I got a little Chastain love. I'll throw that out here a little bit later. But yeah, definitely like Trackhouse. We got Tootsie's in the area. Have you been to Nashville before, Elliot? I have not, and I am jonesing to get down there. Like, I don't necessarily know I need to spend a ton of time on Broadway. It seems like a little bit of a dangerous place for a kid like me who likes to put some bush lights back, regardless of the area. But when there's live music and rooftops, ooh, that's a time or two, I think.
Yeah. Just don't throw any chairs off those roofs, Seth. Be careful.
Yeah.
Not being a big country music fan myself, I get the appeal. Super awesome area down there. It seems like something that I'd like to experience once, maybe go down there on a race weekend, and one of those places, go there once, maybe I'm good for a while, but it definitely looks like a lot of fun down there and going to be a fun race weekend too. Always fun to get the sport down in those fun cultural areas as well.
Absolutely. Let's quickly look at our Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week presented by iFantasyRace.com. This week it is Tyler Reddick. I found Tyler Reddick very hard to fade, very hard to back this week. He was kind of just one of those mediocre drivers, somewhere between driver 5 to 10 for me. And I didn't have a lot of action on him, but he was a contender to win at Nashville last year, but finished with an Asterisk Mark 30th. In this race, he started second, led 33 laps, and also won the first stage, which I think is very important. He was third on lap 132, but then shortly after came down pit road. Tyler Reddick shit happened, had a loose wheel, end up coming back on pit road to get that wheel fixed up, ends up losing it on pit road, drops 2 laps back, and that was kind of the nail in the coffin from him. 13th in the total speed rankings last year at this track, Elliot, but still, when you look at the first 2 segments, first and third, so he had speed early, but it was Tyler Reddick kind of fuckery at the end. So I don't necessarily I tried to fade him. There's a matchup with Buescher right now, plus 245. And I'm really thinking about it. I would love to hear the IBT family and your thoughts on that later as well. But I just don't know what to do with Tyler Reddick this week. And even hearing this still doesn't give me a ton of clarity. He was fast, but bullshit happened,
Yeah, that was my thought with both the 2311 drivers. Is they don't look terrible here, but do they look good enough to throw some money on? Probably not quite.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's go ahead. Let's get to the bets in a little parking garage props and kick it open. What do you say?
Let's roll. I don't know, man. I feel like we give a lot of shit to the books, but I don't think they look that terrible this week.
Dude, I was like a fat kid in a fucking candy store this week, brother. Let me tell you what. Last week, my lightest card in probably the whole season, honestly, maybe other than the super speedways. But yeah, I was pumped this week. The outright prices are a little short on some guys. They're really telling us like, hey, the top 10 guys are probably going to win one of these guys with the implied odds. Heard that from Greg Mathern last night, who did a little math on it on the NASCAR betting preview show here on the channel. But yeah, I really liked it, man. I thought there were a lot of interesting prop bets this week. And, for a time where I feel like the well is drying up there for a second, I'm happy to be back and I'm happy to be full send. I already have a way bigger card this week than I did all of last week.
Well, hey, with how good we were last week, maybe you should have laid some more coin and maybe tighten the reins here. But we'll see what we have, and we'll see if we end up with some good stuff. I know you say you didn't love the outright market, but what do you got on your card for that this week?
Yeah, so I'm full send on Kyle Larson. I hate to be that guy who keeps coming in, and I haven't said it in a while. Last time I said it was Sonoma, but he won that race. Don't forget about it. But I really think this is a guy who's a little bit fired up coming in this race. Like Kyle Larson isn't a guy who needs motivation, but had the fastest car at Iowa, ends up getting wrecked. Then the spotter last week tells him to shut the F up on the radio based on what Denny Hamlin was kind of doing to him. So I think he's motivated coming in here, and it's also just a great track for him. As we said, 3 for 3 in top 5s here in the next-gen era as well. Scored stages in 3 out of 4 points, 8th in the iFantasyRace.com's next-gen total speed rankings. looking at the comps too, he's been brilliant. But besides Denny, probably the best guy on these high speed intermediates and Dover as well. Second at Dover, dominated Vegas, won that one. Fastest car at Texas before he wrecked out, had a loose wheel. Second at Dover, as we alluded to, won Kansas. An all guyer apparently had a rocket at Charlotte. So why shouldn't I be betting Kyle Larson this week? Can you talk me off the ledge? I can't find any. I've been looking for something in the prop market for him. I really can't find that. I'm gonna wait till after practice, maybe hop on a top 5 because it's like minus 130 pretty much across the board for a top 5. But checkers or wreckers, Kyle Larson's wheels up, baby.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no track in the sport right now that I could really talk you out of betting Kyle Larson. But with some of these other outright numbers, maybe I can do that too. I've got 4 on the board this week. I can start with the first 2. And although Chevy's 3 for 3 here, I like 2 Toyotas a lot. I feel like I pick them a lot, especially if you read the Between Bets column that'll go up tomorrow morning on the site. But I got to go back to the Wellen Martin Truex Jr. here, plus 750 on BetMGM. And he has the best total Nashville total speed ranking for my fantasy race. In both of those races, he was the fastest car. He had rough finishes, I think 22nd in both 21 and 22, but last year he was the runner-up. And then with how hot he is, how can you look away from Chris Bell? I saw him at plus 850 on Caesars, 9th, 8th, and 7th in the 3 races here, so all top 10s, continuing to incrementally climb up the board. And with how hot he is, I don't see why he couldn't end up in victory lane.
It's tough on MTJ. Like, I just really want no part of him just because I think he's checked out, man. I'm going to be honest. I think he's a little bit checked out. We've heard for a while that he might not always show up to the competition meetings. And if he does, he zooms in from a boat or something. Like, I don't know, dude. I'm just very wary to bet MTJ. I'm not fading him this week either because you said, like, he's had really good speed here in the last 2 seasons. So I think that alone, if you want to go with that, that's fine. I'm just kind of going on vibes, really, that I want to stay away. I haven't given a lot of thought to betting Chris Bell this week because I just can't bet the guy. I get him wrong every single time, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. So I think that's a good call out with Chris Bell. He is one of those 3 guys we talked about who has had top 10s at all 3 Nashville races. So that's a little bit of an intriguing number, I think. Bell typically maybe not the best qualifier. So maybe that opens up a little bit. Like if I could find him 10-1, I think post-practice and qualifying, I think I'd be really interested in that. I don't mind that.
Yeah, that would be a wild number for sure. I like those Toyotas. I might like these Chevrolets a little more. I got to call out the 2 winners on the track in the next gen. Chase Elliott's at plus 900 on BetMGM. Top 5 in the total speed ranking in both the next gen races. Obviously won in 22, 4th place in 23. He DQ'd in 2021, but he led some laps in there. I didn't dig deep enough to figure out where he finished on track before the DQ. And your guy Ross Chastain boosted to plus 950 over on Caesars. 5th and 2nd in that total speed ranking. Won last year, 5th and 22. And you alluded to it earlier. It's Trackhouse's home race. They have had kind of a slow start. People are really kind of doubting them. You know, they really have Nashville as their presence. You know, Tootsie's is on the 99 car this week. I think Ross is running a late model with Tootsie's on it. They're really going to bring their best to Nashville. And I think just like they did last year, one or both of these cars are going to be forces to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I like the Ross call out a lot. Personally, to me, that's the one guy I was looking at as soon as the books open this week.
Yeah,
you gotta go on Ross. I think if you're gonna bet on him sometime this year, like if not now, when I'm wearing the shirt, I'm full send on him as well. Finishes a fifth and 1st here in the next gen era, 3rd in the total speed rankings. Also, like going back 2021, like people forget he finished 2nd that day in a Chip fucking Ganassi car. Like,
right.
You know, that shows a little bit of guts and grit there. The only thing with Ross is he hasn't been as great at the comps as guys like Larson, like Bell this season. But still 4th at Las Vegas, almost won freaking Texas if Byron didn't take it from us. You remember me calling you pissed off after that race. 8th in the comp total speed ranking. So I'm ready to get my heart broke again. I'm like a guy that I'm just ready to go back to my toxic ex, man. Send me back in there, Ross Chastain. Charles asking, are you putting a full unit on each of these guys? I have a full unit on Ross right now on the outright. I have 2 on Larson just because I think you need to, if you're going to bet Larson, like you can't just bet a unit. You have to probably go at least 2 at a 5-1 price at FanDuel. So, I'm with you on Ross. And any additional thoughts on him after, like, are you feeling a little bit better now that I'm back on the train as well? Or
Yeah, I mean,
you knew I was probably.
yeah, and you mentioned the comp tracks. Like I said, Nashville's Nashville. There's no true comp. And in terms of what I do with my betting strategy, I don't even necessarily am going to lay coin on all these bets. I take some time, do some research,
Yeah.
take a look at what do I like, what looks intriguing to me. Let's talk it out on the show. And a handful of these I will put some money on. A handful of these I have thrown coin on. I don't have that in front of me right now. But for example, last week, usually I kind of put my bet sheet off to the side. It sits on my desk for a week until I look back at it tonight. And, there were 2 or 3 of the bets I called out last week that I laid coin on before. Another 2 or 3 that I did at some point between the show and Sunday. And then 2 or 3 more that I didn't even have on the card, didn't call out on the show when I looked over for the weekend. So not necessarily everything that I say, at least, am I going to lay coin. And obviously, they're all things I'm considering. I'm not going to throw out a bet and be like, haha, that was a shitty bet. I'm definitely not going to bet that. These are all things that I see that it interests me. I do the research. It interests me more. So it's worth discussing on the show is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I will say, just because I'm so scared of lines moving, I do like everything I shout out. I'm already down on for the most part. So I'll try to shout out the unit size and kind of let you guys know what the allocation is, if that helps a little bit. Mark asking Busher 25-1. Look, man, I think there is a case for Busher this week. A couple things I'll say about him. We talked to him at Dover, Elliot, and he loves concrete tracks. Like, this is his bread and butter. He hasn't had the finishes here. He hasn't had the runs here, but Busher can pop up. And this is about the time of year where it's like, hey, let's, giddy up here a little bit, number 17 car. So I don't hate Busher 25-1. I think he was like 30 something, maybe 33-1 over at Bet Rivers, Mark. So if you have access to our friends out there in Pittsburgh, I would maybe get invested there instead. Like 25, I don't know, but 35, 33, I think I would consider it.
See, this week, Busher was a guy that I kind of wanted to look into. We talked to him at Dover. Really likes it. He's had some good summer runs here, but looking at his Nashville stats, I just pulled him up again to make sure.
They're not great.
No, his 3 finishes here, 36th, 30th, and 18th. And, obviously Dover's the closest comp, but I'm looking at Nashville as Nashville. I haven't seen anything good. And that 2022 race, that was not a crash. Maybe he had an incident in that race, but he's 3 laps down. And last year, 18th running all the laps. Not really too optimistic on Busher this week. At a 33-1, though, I feel like you can't rule him out. 25-1, I don't quite love as much, but let's see how P and Q goes for him, and maybe I'll be optimistic. But right now, I'm not feeling either RFK car.
I want to wrap up on Ross before we pivot off that real quick. And last night on our sister program, the NASCAR betting preview show, there's a lot of Ross fading going on, and I don't agree with that at all. I do not think you should be fading Ross this week. And kind of the argument being made for him, well, he hasn't shown race-winning speed lately. And it's like, well, he didn't really show race-winning speed last year, like for heading into this race too. It was kind of like a Blaney situation at Charlotte last year. It kind of just popped up out of nowhere. So don't go fading Ross. If you don't want to tail us on Ross, that's fine. Do not fade him this week. Like, I was really taken back last night, honestly, on the program, hearing some of the best handicappers in the space fading him. So one of us are going to make out. One of us are going to lose some coin on Chastain this week. I also have him, if you go over to the Caesar Speakeasy, under 7.5 plus 110 for 2 units. As Charles alluded to in the chat earlier, that you can get him at some place. I think Bet Rivers plus 150, Bovada plus 150 for a top 5. Just based on some of the speed and some of the concerns I do have that Ross hasn't been super fast lately. I'm buying back 2 spots. I just need top 7 here, Elliot, and I'm still getting plus money, which feels good because he's minus money for a top 5. A lot of other books. Your thoughts on that little offer in there from our guys Caesars in the Speakeasy?
It's on my sheet. I had him to call out. I think that having the plus money on that when he has finished so well here, and I think obviously our sister program. I like the way you say that.
Yeah.
They're obviously some of the smartest guys in the sport. A lot of times they're smarter than us, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
That is definitely something. I understand the what have you done for me lately. The Trackhouse hasn't had race-winning speed, that he's looked like a real clunker some weeks. Now, Music City is its own place. The saying is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's almost what happens in Nashville stays in Nashville in the Cup Series.
Oh, yeah.
The next few years with the next gen. Unless they run into an incident, I just don't see how Ross doesn't finish in the top 10, lead some laps, and at least look like a contender for a good portion of that race.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite bets of the week. Under 7.5. I went 2 full units on that one, so I'm very excited about that. The last outright I want to pitch before we hop off this train and get into some more placements is Denny Hamlin. I got him on a Caesars boost 6.5 to 1, and then FanDuel up their line to 6.5 to 1. I think that's fair. Like last week, I didn't want to chase Bell because we know what happens there. Hamlin, I'm willing to chase a little bit. It's not my favorite number, but I think it's a fair number. He's the only person better than Larson in the comp total speed rankings this season. He won at Dover when we were there, Elliot. Had a shot at winning at Texas, wrecked himself racing with Chase for the win. Also top 5 at Kansas and Charlotte. So throw out Las Vegas where he looked like dog shit. And he's been good on these types of tracks. He needs a bounce back here after a couple bad weeks for him and that number 11 camp. Also second in the Nashville Next Gen Total Speed Rankings. In that time span, he's led 195 laps, 4 for 4 at placing in the top 5 at stage ends, and then finishes of 3rd and 6th. So I'm expecting Denny, honestly, to be battling with Larson and Chastain. Like, those are my 3 favorites, I think, really looking at it this week. And I took a little nibble at Top Toyota plus 210 as well for about half a unit. I'm worried about Bell. Like I said, I'm fading Truex. Like, I'm not fading Truex and I'm betting against him, but I don't really think he can beat Denny at this track. I think he can maybe have some better short run speed, but what happened at Dover? Martin used up his tires. Martin faded back and Denny was conserving. So I'm curious to see what the tire wear will be here in Nashville. Probably going to be hot, probably going to be slick. So maybe not a shit ton of wear, but yeah, I still like Denny, man. I just can't get away from him. And I hate being the guy that's, when we get to these tracks saying bet Denny and Larson, but hey, bet Denny and Larson. I feel safe at it. I'm hedging my Larson bet with Denny here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I really don't hate that. I just feel like a lot of us aren't really thinking about Denny because he hasn't been up front the last couple of weeks. But, it's funny you mentioned those 3 because the thought I had in my head was we'll be sitting there, the sun will be starting to set, it'll be lap 100 or whatever, and we'll be sitting there, Letard will be talking about pit strategy or something, and I think the top 3 will be Larson, Hamlin, Chastain. That I can very easily see that playing out.
I know
at least at that point in the race, whether the finishes and crazy things, but there'll be a point where they're the 3 best cars.
Yes, and I want to expand on that. I know we usually go from outrights to placements and then matchups and then down to specials, but I want to go to specials because we're kind of on this topic, and this is my hammer of the week. This is my bet of the week. I didn't have one last week, but when I saw this number, I jumped at it. I went 3 units down on it. Winning car number under 12.5 at Caesars minus 130. And listen, man, you're in this bet. Not only are you getting what Ellie and I think are the 3 best cars, Ross, Larson, and Hamlin, you're also getting some other pretty damn good cars who are running really good right now. Chase Elliott, you like that outright, apparently. Ryan Blaney cannot be dismissed just with the speed he has every single week the last month.
Yep.
Brad Keselowski has not looked bad at Nashville, also has had a lot of speed. Josh Berry. Probably can't get it done, but he could maybe walk into a backdoor win. And so could guys like Cindric or Kyle Busch or Gragson. So I love this. This is like arguably one of my favorite bets of the year, I think. Winning car number under 12.5. The people I'm worried about would probably be Bell. That's like the one guy I think that could maybe beat me. Maybe I'll hedge with him, like I said, if he gets above 10 to 1. But your thoughts on this? Am I too bullish on those guys? And I just really like the low numbers this week, man. I really do.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't give Corey LaJoy a shout out there under 12.5. But
no love for him and Austin Dillon.
No, yeah, Austin Dillon too. How could I forget? I mean, that's you're getting a lot of your favorites in that bet, but you're not drinking quite as much juice as I thought you would there. There are a lot of competitors outside of that number range, but we do think those guys are going to be the best. There's a lot of sneaky ones in there because you get to some of these other ones that are closer to plus money, and the number is somewhere like I've seen like over 22.5. So you have like or over 21.5 even. You get like a Logano, a Bubba, a Byron, a Bowman, a Suarez, and that's about it. It really starts to thin out. Under 12.5, even at that price, I do like it at that. If it was like 150 or something, I'd be much more hesitant. But minus 130, definitely worth a shot. That's a lot of units you threw on it though. But
dude, I feel good about it. I'm very excited to get my 3 favorite drivers and then a lot of other fast cars too. Charles asking under 14.5 for minus 135. Yeah, I saw this one at Bet Rivers after I bet this initially over at Caesars. So I'm cool with this. Like, you're not getting any more. Like, you're getting Briscoe added, but
you're paying a little bit extra for Briscoe. Exactly.
Yeah, like, but still, like, minus 135 is still a really good deal, man. Like you're not drinking that much juice here. So, yeah, I'm taking a little page out of our other co-host Rod's playbook here and going with the winning card number. Elliot, anything else here from a special standpoint that you like and you're eyeing up here as we approach the weekend, my friend?
Yeah, for on the specials, Ford to win is at plus 360. I always take a peek at the furthest manufacturer to win. You know, Penske isn't the best here. Obviously, they haven't won here, but a Blaney or a Logano or maybe an RFK car, if you believe some of our guys, plus 360, that's a number worth looking at. Would one of those exactas count as a special, or should I save that for positioning? Or
Yeah, yeah, you can throw out an exacta for sure.
Because I was, like I said, those were when I first started betting. Those were always so appealing.
Yeah,
I went off of them for a while. I take a peek at them, and after I came so close last week, I have to take another dip in the well here. And what I've got here, and you can do this with the same odds either way, whichever guy first or second, plus 3,000, which I think was the same as the Bellberry for Martin Truex Jr. and Ross Chastain. So you can do it either way, 19 first, 1 second, or 1 first, 19 second at 30 to 1 over there on Caesars. You're not as high on Truex this week. I get it.
Yeah.
I think Chastain will be good. Maybe part of me, one of my season-long bets, as we'll talk about in the summer break, is I have the Truex over 2.5 wins. Maybe part of me is just, all right, Truex has to start waiting to hit that. But he hasn't looked terrible. He just hasn't got to victory lane. I think a place like Nashville could be a good shot for him. And even if Truex doesn't run super great all day, Ross can be the dominant car. Truex can kind of play it well at the end up in second place pretty easily, I feel like.
Larson Hamlin would be my exacta pick. I know that's like the super jock one, but yeah,
I'm sure it is. But
yeah, I don't hate it. Chuck also asking, do we do race specials like the parlays? Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson top 3 plus 550. I was actually looking for a little bit of a parlay for them, or maybe for a top 5 to get in on something like this, but usually I don't like to do some of these like manufactured specials all the time, Elliot. They used to be pretty rare when we would get them. Now we have like it's hard to sort through them sometimes. And also at the same time, like, it's tough to handicap 2 racers doing very well when there's so many different variances in a stock car race. So I'm a little more hesitant for parlays, in the same race, but I do look every week. I definitely look. I just don't usually bet a ton of them, if that makes sense. I've gotten burned in the past. Yeah,
I dug into FanDuel a little more than normal today, and they must have had 45 different freaking options of these sort of specials. Denny to win, and this guy to be top 3, and this guy to be top 5. I was like, I can't even get my head around all this. I don't want to dive in because, like I said, they can be very tempting because it's like, okay, well, there's 43 guys. I can surely figure out where 2 of them are going to finish, right? It's a lot harder than you think.
Yeah, all I'll say is FanDuel had a couple interesting ones this week. Any to finish top 3, and they had a couple different names in there. And I took that a gander. I took that, a little bit look. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Any to finish top 3. I've never seen that before. So, yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Anything else in specials market before we jump back to placement props here?
No, I think placements is the place to go. I got a sheet full of them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm super excited to hear what you have here because I know you and I are both down on Ross Chastain under 7.5 at plus 110. What else do you like here? I have a couple long shots, but nothing else too much in placements right now. Kind of just playing the waiting game.
Yeah, that's understandable. I'll start with some of those over-unders that, like you said, are in the Caesar speakeasy. You got to dig a little bit to find them. And it's nice because they don't, they have your Chastains. Last week they had a McDowell. You have some guys that are toward the front, but also toward the back. 2 guys that I'm fading this week that, really you're not going to hear them talk about that much because they're going to run at the back. Harrison Burton over 29.5 and Corey LaJoie over 27.5. The Burton is at plus 110, the LaJoie at plus 120. Both have been better than those numbers in recent weeks and at Nashville in the past. But, they're really 2 drivers that are always a risk to throw out just absolute stinkers. So I think, there were sprinkles. I wouldn't throw a whole bunch of units on these if I even end up betting them at all. But I just feel like neither of those guys are going to have a very good day. But I do like Austin Dillon under 22.5 at plus 110. And, his most recent non-incident ovals have been 19th at Iowa and 6th at Gateway. And I was, RCR has gone through a lot of shit. They've looked bad this year. I was really hesitant. I was like, I need to make sure I have my shit on this if I'm going to call it out. His 3 finishes at Nashville, 12th, 14th, 13th. It's been a relatively good track for him. So to have his over-under with those finishes set at 22.5, at the plus money for the under, that one I'm going to slam some coin on, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Full tank with Phil on the sister program last night. He faded Austin Dillon with this one, and I think I am with you when you look at his Nashville numbers. It's just we haven't seen a lot of correlation from last year to this year with Austin Dillon. It's like the
Yeah.
track that he does good at last year, he kind of sucks at this year, and not a ton of
This,
correlation. And
this is 3 years running. I mean, he hasn't finished, but he's been 12th to
yeah,
14th all 3 races.
yeah, I can't hate on it. I can't hate on it at all. And shout out to Caesars for at least like throwing out some different stuff on some over unders there. And I'm definitely with you on Corey LaJoie. And I looked at fading him myself, and it was his Nashville numbers that propped him up a little bit in my model. I was like, God damn, like I can't totally get behind fading Corey LaJoie, but at the same time, when you look at his total speed rankings, 31st here in
Yeah.
in the total speed rankings for 2024 at the comp tracks, that's pretty bad. You also look at what he's done lately for you at these tracks. The slowest car at Charlotte by a mile, like wasn't even close. Arguably one of the most disappointing drivers this year for me. Like I don't know if the guy wants to race anymore. Like it. I mean, Carson Hocevar is making these cars look really good, man. And LaJoie, I don't mean to bury on him because we like LaJoie. You know, I like LaJoie. I've been backing LaJoie for years, and I don't know, man. I'm ready for something different in that number 7 car. It's been slow.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think before, when Spire was still building up, that LaJoie was a good driver to have in there. He's going to run all right. He's not going to tear up cars. He's going to give you good feedback. Obviously, Zane Smith in one of those Spire cars hasn't had a great year. But seeing what Hocevar has done and seeing LaJoie fail to build on what was a relatively good first half of the year last year, with all the silly season movement we're going to see in the next couple of years and all the charter movement and all the young prospects that aren't going to have a ride because they're teams that are set, LaJoie could very easily find himself out of a cup ride in the near future. I don't dislike the guy. I like guys who finish well and who don't blame all their problems on other people when they fuck up. So
yeah, he's got them dollar bills, yo. He's got them dollar bills, yo. And as we know, those sometimes can get you rides. I'm gonna throw out a couple long ones for you. How about it? I went about probably more than I should have just because I think I got excited on it. 0.7 of a unit here. Justin Haley, top 10, 14-1. I know you got burned last week, but I'm going back to the well here.
No, I only got burned because of Chastain kind of cut him off, damaged the front of that car.
Yeah.
Haley was even still in the top 10 with 10 to go, ended up fading all the way back to the last car in the lead lap just because of so much damage from that incident.
Well, and when you just look at it, man, like 14-1 at FanDuel is a crazy price considering everywhere else he's like 5, 6, 7-1.
Yep.
Because when you look at it, man, like Justin Haley, he was running in the top 5, like legit top 5 car last week. And it doesn't really matter where we've gone lately, road courses, 1.5 miles, short tracks. Justin Haley's been around in that top 10 conversation. So 14-1, like you're kind of fucking obligated to take a sprinkle on him. I think at least. And let's not forget, he qualified 4th here last year, so he might have some speed right out of the bat. Yeah, remember, because we played him in DFS, and he sank like a rock. He got like 26 and lost all those diff points, and we got screwed. But Justin Haley, 14-1. I got in bed further with Rick Ware Racing. I have an issue right now, apparently. I saw Riley Herbst at 25-1 at DraftKings. I've seen him 35-1 other places for a top 10. I don't hate that for a tenth of a unit sprinkle. Like as small as you can get sprinkle, I think it's maybe interesting. The only reason I shout out Riley Herbst here, doesn't have a ton of Cup Series experience. I know that. 3 for 3 finishing in the top 10 in the Xfinity Series. The last 2 years, finishes of 2nd and 3rd in those races at Nashville, stage points in every single stage as well. So he's been super consistent in the Xfinity Series here down at the honky tonk. And I think Riley Herbst, a little sprinkle here on him, 35-1, 25-1, whatever you want to get on him. It's at least worth a shot. Like if you're going to get in bed with RWR, I'm getting in bed. I'm going for the threesome, baby. I'm getting in bed with 2 of them.
Yeah, I really don't hate that because, so rarely do we have not only Haley, but another pretty damn good driver in the Rick Ware car. I mean, Kaz Gralla, good guy, okay race car driver. Cody Ware, we already know Cody Ware. Thankfully, hopefully out of that car for good now. Yeah. Sorry, Cody. So that'll be real interesting to see. And I wouldn't rule it out with a sprinkle, but I was absolutely going to come back to the well on Haley. I'm coming back to the well on Todd Gilliland at 11-1 on FanDuel. And Carson Hocevar is the same at 11-1. Obviously, Gilliland, another guy that he just kind of faded on the wet weather tires. He was up to 4th thinking maybe he could have had a
Dude.
shot at maybe even winning that race had things gone his way. Still held in the top 10, ends up falling out in the last 5 laps or so, ended up not hitting either of those top 10 numbers. And a guy like Carson Hocevar, too, the last 4 weeks, he's been no worse than 17th, had top 10s at Gateway and Texas on similar-ish tracks. You know, he's maybe who I'm least confident in just because he's got some more of that variance. He hasn't been as consistent for as long as Todd Gilliland and Justin Haley have been. But hey, even your boy Tampa Tim's, I got to look at his Twitter feed. You know, you were tagging him and stuff to promote that Betting Pro show. What was his bet of the week this week? A week after my bet of the week was Todd Gilliland top 10. Todd Gilliland top 10. So if bigger names in the industry are catching on, I'm glad that I was, one of the first, or at least in my mind, bringing it up earlier than others. Definitely positive for how I feel and seeing how good he ran. Like I said, I already had it clipped in the rain delay, man. Like, we got it. Wish we would bet the top 5s. You just get bad beats sometimes, especially in the wet weather.
Yeah, you do. You really do. Hasn't had like a ton of speed on these styles of tracks. That's the only thing that kept me off from Todd Gilliland. But like, it's hard. You got to throw a couple of those out. Like Dover, he spun immediately in that race. So you can kind of throw, he was a lap down, like what, freaking 15 laps into that race. So
that's the only race dating back to, I think, Talladega that he's been worse than 17.
Yep. Yeah. So at 11-1, like, take a couple sprinkles on these guys. Like, I'm not saying bet all of them. I'm not saying bet all of them a full unit. Absolutely fucking not. But take some, like, because if one of these guys hits, not only is it going to pay for these other bets that you miss, it's going to potentially pay for your weekend. So that's like why and like, now that you and Tim's are both on Todd G, I don't think I can add another long shot top 10 in my car, but God damn it, I might do it, Elliot. I might do it, man. I love it. I love it. Chuck asking Haley top 10, 850 Bovada.
I even don't hate it at that number. The way he's been running, I wouldn't do that for the 77 or the 38. I would definitely consider it with the 51. Yeah.
I would say I'd probably go no lower than 7. I don't know what fair is by Sims. I know the guys that win the race have a sim that kind of spits out what's fair. I don't know what's fair on Haley, but anything above 7-1, I think you should be considering it, especially if he has, speed off the truck here this week. He's had it lately. He qualified 4th here last year. Anything else here in placement props before we head to some matchups?
What do you think about a top 10 for Suarez? Plus 285 on DraftKings. He's never been worse than 15th here, 7th place in 2021. Maybe some of that Trackhouse effect. I know he's not quite as good here as Ross, not quite as good this season as Ross, but he's got the win in the back pocket. Maybe can throw some balls to the wall here, get that top 10. Plus 285 is not bad for how good Trackhouse has been at Nashville.
You and Tampa Tim's this week must be on a wavelength, because that's also one that he shouted out earlier on the Betting Pros podcast earlier this week. Gotcha. And I don't hate that at all, man, because like you are 100% right, and he has run better as of lately. Not great in the total speed rankings at these comp tracks, but listen, dude, we're going Tootsie's backyard. I think Daniel Suarez is going to be having more speed than we've seen out of him this entire season. And if we like Ross, we should at least consider Suarez. That's not a bad number. I'd have to look where he qualifies here. Usually like to see, how much I really want to get invested in him. But actually average finish of 11.3 looking at it. Average starting of 12 point. Damn, that actually, see, like there's actually a lot of value in the top 10 market this week. Yeah. If you go outside the top 10 guys, if you can break out of that mold, which is hard for us sometimes. Yeah, like I don't hate that actually, man. I might have to be giving that another look, because it feels like Suarez is a guy. He shows up on tracks that he's usually good at. Atlanta, we kind of had him circled. I had him in a group bet that I hit on him. I wish I bet the outright. He's good at tracks that he's good at, if that makes sense for Suarez.
Yeah, and if you look at, I understand people wanting to stick with the chalk for top 10. But if you look at, I'm sure if you look at damn near every race this year, you're going to look at that top 10, and it's not going to be chalk top 10. You're going to see at least one guy. It's like, oh, fuck, that guy got a top 10. I didn't expect that. So you got to, like I said, you don't have to throw all your units on long shot top 10s, but they are worth the discussion for sure, because you're going to have at least one that you'll say, oh, shit, I didn't expect him to finish top 10, ends up 9th, 10th, 8th, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
If not winning like a Cindric at Gateway.
I'm totally with you. There. Anything else in placement props before we hop over?
I'm ready for matchups and groups.
Okay, so I do actually not have any matchups and groups for the Cup Series right now. Like I said, I've been staring at that Chris Buescher over Tyler Reddick plus 245 because like we had something similar a couple weeks ago with Alex Bowman. When you were coming, I remember we were chatting about that the one day on the phone. We're like, what, like, I feel forced to bet that, but Tyler Reddick's been so damn fast on these tracks. Like that's the thing. He's third in the Dover plus high speed mile and a half total speed rankings. I just don't know if I can get there with Buescher. He's 10th in those. So it's like anything could happen at that price, almost 2.5 to 1, Ellie. Do you nibble? Do you nibble down? Or like, I just don't know. It feels like a trap. It feels like they want me to bet on Buescher, right?
Yeah, it's tough because neither one has been spectacular at Nashville, and both of them are subject to fuckery more often than other guys. With that much of a plus money dangle, though, I don't hate you for looking at it for sure.
Yeah, I was looking at it earlier this week at like the plus 150, and then over at FanDuel, it's way high up. So yeah, it's worth a look, I think. But I am not down on that currently. Anything you are currently down on, or you're looking at, prospecting for the weekend potentially?
Yeah, neither of the matchups that I have here are all that anticipated. I'm not think they're worth calling out. But there is a group on Caesars, Group G, and I do have to pull out, my Ally purple tinted glasses for this one because it is a Bowman bet. So that's a warning I give everybody. I've got a little bit of Bowman, not Bowman fever, because I don't even have him for a top 10. It hasn't been one of his better racetracks. Wrecked the 1 year, finished mid-teens. But they've got him in a group this week at plus 250 over Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, and Corey Heim. Now, I think that, a lot of different weeks, you're going to see the 8 and the 23 run parallel, if not better than the 48. But there's just been such bad luck lately with the 8 and the 23. We know that Kyle Busch, has had some really crummy finishes. Bubba Wallace is kind of just as mediocre here, finishes in the mid-teens. And, they've had a lot of trouble finishing races this year too. And Corey Heim is only in his first handful of starts in the third 2311 car that even with a legendary road course guy, Kamui Kobayashi in it, has not looked all that strong. So I don't love the 48 in a lot of markets this week, but over these three guys at plus 250, if you're going to get him running 11th to 15th here like we're used to at a place like Nashville, I don't see how he doesn't have a damn good chance to win that group.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because when you look at what he's done at the comp tracks this season specifically, it's very intriguing. 4 out of 5 of those comp races, Las Vegas, Texas, Dover, Kansas, Charlotte, Alex Bowman, top 10 in 4 of them, man. Like he's been consistent. He's had the speed. I mean, there was a moment where I think both of you and I looked at each other at Dover like, is Alex Bowman going to win this race? That's our closest comp to me.
He did an AMA this week, said Dover is his favorite track in the Cup Series right now. So if you have any comp on the concrete, he's run well there the last few years.
And he's in the, as I heard earlier this week on the internet, he's in the Ally car. You know what I mean? So a little bit
in the Ally car, they always try to ham it up with a special paint scheme. Sounds like they're firing up a damn car on my window again, as if I'm just outside the racetrack. Unfortunately, not the case this week, but it just hasn't been that strong here. But I think in this group, I like the 48, even if nowhere else this week.
Holy cow, they're running it over.
That 48 must have just pulled up right outside my driveway here. Maybe I'll throw myself on mute for a minute while you talk to Charles.
It's all good. Chuck asking, think Bowman over Buescher this week. That's probably a no bet for me, man. I like they're both like right there. I think they could both like sneak in back half top 10. Probably a no bet for me. Also asking about a group with Barry, Suarez, Gregson, Heim. Suarez would be my favorite in that group. But just kind of depends what kind of money you're getting. Like, unless it's a 3 to 1 or better, I'd probably pass because Barry's been fast. Gregson showed up at Vegas and some of these other high speed mile and a half. So I probably would just be a no bet on that as well.
Are these books like really giving that much love to Corey Heim?
They are. I understand he's been so overvalued this week.
Yes, I understand he's been good in trucks. I understand he's got good prospects. I understand he's in a 2311 car. I just don't see any way that he's, maybe he's top 20. Maybe. I just don't see it in the Cup right now.
Here's my scavenger hunt of the week for the IBT family. Find me a matchup, just a matchup, not a group that I can fade Corey Heim, and I will. I just don't get it. That would
surprise me if he's got an individual matchup out there. Maybe he does, but I think they're high on him because he's run well in Xfinity. He's run well in trucks. He's probably he's definitely pulling double duty, if not triple duty this week. Actually, I don't think he's in Xfinity. But it's just too early. I think next year, if he's in the third 2311 chartered car, as is, the rumor, then you can start to throw him in these groups. But I think this is way too early for a guy who's only made a couple of Cup starts to be grouping him with guys, 2-time champion in Kyle Busch, a guy who's won 7 races in Cup, and a guy who's won 2 or 3 in Cup in Bubba Wallace. And even in that group too, Suarez has won this year. Barry's come damn close. Gregson has, had a big top 10 streak. Corey Haim's just showing up once in a while. It's crazy.
Outside of Kansas too, like it's not like he's a great truck driver at the high speed mile and a half either. Like that's the thing about it. He showed up at Dover earlier this season in a cup car and he looked okay, like, top 20-ish car, but like that's, that's the ceiling for Corey Haim. I'm sure we'll talk about him more in DFS, but yeah. I just, if you can fade Corey Haim this week and get invested around him, I think. We also have Bob. I think I missed this earlier in the chat. He was saying, I still like 20 again this week. He's on a hot roll. Yeah, Bob. Yeah, definitely.
You can't look away with how hot he's been and 3 top 10s at Nashville. You can't look away.
Yes. 100%. All right. Let's go ahead. Anything else for the Cup Series that we haven't touched on for you?
I think we're good to move on to Xfinity and trucks. Glad they're both running this weekend too. It's always more exciting when we can get all 3 series on track.
Oh, dude, I'm really looking forward to it, and gonna be heading up to my dad's this weekend for a wedding for my first cousin, and hopefully gonna fire up the truck race on the patio and get everyone invested in it with me. And I don't have a lot for these series. I will say that I don't have a lot. I'm not chasing outrights. I have no outrights for these series. I probably won't place any outrights. Yeah, I'm just kind of keeping it close to the vest here because when you look at this Xfinity Series entry list, in particular, Elliot, just fucking loaded, man. We got Chad Fincham, we got Ty Gibbs, we got John Hunter Nemechek, Tyler Reddick, Noah Gragson, Carson Kvapil, Ross Chastain. Like, we got 5 Cup guys in this race, and to me, that muddies the water and honestly makes me want to bet less on Xfinity. I don't know if you feel the same, but when there's so many top guys coming down, I'm just a little more wary to get invested from an outright standpoint. That being said, do you have any plays you're down on, you're looking at?
Yeah, I've got one I really like, and then one we can talk out. So like you were saying this week, a lot of Cup guys. You got Ty Gibbs, John Hunter Nemechek, both in Gibbs cars. The other favorite up there with him is Justin Allgaier, but there's always some fucky shit that happens to Justin Allgaier.
Yep.
So the guy I like the most in the outright, Tyler Reddick in the Sam Hunt number 26 at 12-1. Reddick has won with some mid-tier teams before, got Big Machine Racing, their first win a couple of years back. And, we saw Haim run this car pretty well. Depending on the driver, it's really driver dependent how it runs. Obviously never quite as good at the Gibbs cars week in, week out. But a guy like Reddick on a track like this, even if it's not one of his favorites, I think he definitely can mix it up. And especially with the way the numbers look, I think at a 12-1, probably about the best value you're going to find outright-wise on the Xfinity board.
That was the one outright I considered just because of the number. Like there's nothing in the stat history that's saying, hey, you need to bet Tyler Reddick this week, whether that's the Cup Series or even the Xfinity Series races here, because he has some starts here in this style of car. But yeah, I don't mind the 12-1 at all, Elliot. I'm also down on Toyota to win -115. I did it last week at -140. Thank God, Christopher Bell.
Yeah.
Oh, skin of my fucking. I thought Sheldon Creed was going to take out all the Toyotas last week, and we're going to see a Cole Custer win or something. But I mean, you're getting John Hunter Nemechek, you're getting Ty Gibbs in elite Joe Gibbs equipment here. You're getting Chandler Smith, who ran really well here last year in a colleague car. You're getting Sheldon Creed, who I don't think can win, but he's still been a top 5 car the last couple weeks.
The chance is always there. He's the new Daniel Hemrick, essentially, in Xfinity.
Yeah.
The chance is always there. He can never quite get it done, but he's always around the block.
And then Reddick in the Sam Hunt racing car. So you're telling me you can give me 3 Cup Series drivers for this number of 115 in all solid equipment? Tyler Reddick probably in the worst equipment, but still a good car. Like I want to call the Sam Hunt racing car it's a top 15 car.
That's the big thing is Reddick being able to take mediocre cars to victory lane. Chastain, I think, is in a DGM car. I'm assuming. Like the 91 or whatever. Yeah, so we just haven't really been able to see that car run as well toward the front consistently. I like Reddick more than Chastain, even though Chastain's numbers are far better at Nashville and Cup.
Yeah, and then Chandler Smith too. Like he's probably one of the favorites for me outside of these Cup guys. So yeah, I'm all in on Toyota, Joe Gibbs Racing, Sam Hunt. Fire him up this week. I went 2 units on that -115 Toyota win. We're going back to the well, baby.
Yeah, and dude, I hate those minus money manufacturer outrights. I can't blame you for it this week at all.
Dude, yeah, you gotta tail it, man. You gotta tail it.
You might have to.
One more Xfinity bet that I'm currently down on for a unit and a half. Carson Quapple, even money over Sammy Smith. I believe
That
this
was my other Xfinity bet. Wow.
Okay.
We're really on the same wavelength.
Yeah,
How
dude.
about it?
Yeah. And okay, so Tampa Tim shouted him out. I think he was trying to get a raise from Dale Jr. this week on the
Yeah.
program.
And this was a race too that this time last week we didn't think Quapple was going to run.
Yep.
That sponsor, Clarion Technologies or whatever it's called, added this race to the schedule. Obviously, he's more of a short track guy. Nashville maybe close enough, but go ahead and continue.
Yeah, so Tim's shouted him out for a top 5. He's plus 350 for a top 5. With all the Cup guys, I just don't feel comfortable getting in bed with him there. However, over Sammy Smith, listen, man, Carson, 3 for 4 of top 5s in this series. Talk about a guy you want to hitch your fucking wagon to. Guy seems like not only is he great on the track, he's working on the cars in the garages, at least the late models. I don't know if he touches the Xfinity cars, probably not, but hands-on
dirty a little bit,
hands-on driver. Same with his dad, hands-on guy in the garage for Junior Motorsports there. 4-0 against Sammy Smith heading into this weekend. That's what I like. He's beat Sammy Smith every time he's been in a car. And when we were at Dover, he legitimately almost won that fucking race, dude. He was the best guy out there, in my opinion. Like, I thought he should have almost won that race. And he's been leading laps not only at Dover, but last week we saw him lead laps towards the end of the race too. Like, this guy legitimately, if Toyota doesn't win, I think Carson Quapple is going to win. I've even thought about sprinkling him 28-1, just like, a tenth of a unit just to cover my ass. But this guy scares me. And it's a good ass car, bro. Like, that 88 car is fucking fast every time he gets out there, man.
Yeah, I certainly hope it stays fast deep into the fall for when some other drivers are going to step in that car. That'd be nice. But Carson Quapple definitely has run well. And like I said, we don't know on the bigger tracks. We can consider Nashville a bigger track compared to some of these other tracks that he's run really well on. Still to be determined, but they are really giving him a schedule of some mixed variety, probably in anticipation of going full-time next year, where if he's in a JRM car next year, he might be up there, not necessarily as a favorite for the title, but certainly in the conversation. I don't think you could rule him out. And I think, like you said, 4-0 over Sammy Smith. I didn't even realize that. That makes me like it even more.
Yeah, I'm down, man. Charles asking, would you take it at -115? I'm guessing they're both at -115. I wouldn't hammer it as much. Like, I'm not as happy. Like, to see even money over Sammy, I was all on board. But 4-0, man. Like, unless trends break, I'm all right with it. I'm all right with it at -115. I do like it still. Charles, thank you for the $10 super sticker, man. We greatly appreciate it. Saying thankful you guys respond to the chat. And it looks like his wife is watching with us tonight, even though she wanted to watch the presidential debate.
Dude, I'm sure that's not worth anyone's time here. Honest to God, it's not worth anyone's time. Thank you for tuning into this show, and thank you for the super sticker for sure. What I will say, all I'll say is the presidential debate is not going to make you as much money as we will, hopefully will at Nashville this weekend. That's all I'll say.
Is this the primary debates tonight?
No, so they're into full debate season now. We got Carson Quapple's cars coming out here beside me. I swear this doesn't happen every night. It's just they feel we're talking racing, and whoever this asshole is out here.
You need to get out there. You need to get out there and tell them to fucking line it up for pink slips right now, buddy.
Yeah, for real. They hear me talking about racing. And they're like, all right, let's rev up the engines, man. Let's get the racing feel going in the vibe here. But anyway, so they're debates, but they're almost debates traditionally are run by the Presidential Debate Commission or whatever. They didn't do that this year, but they're still going to do debates just for the TV. There's no live audience there. The microphones are cut other than the time you're speaking. And honestly, like I said, this isn't a political show. We're not going to get into politics.
Yeah.
But if you're to a point where you have to even be watching the debate to make a decision, I'm just really I'd be really confused. That's all. I'd be confused. But this is, like I said, way better for all of our mental health, way better for our pocketbook, way better for everything to be here with this beverage and this koozie talking NASCAR with everyone else. Who the fuck needs politics when you got NASCAR racing?
Thank you. Yes, I will take the sports world over the politics world any day. And it's an escape sometimes, man. And like that's the one thing I love about racing. I love about sports in general, and love talking shop. With the IBT family as well. Fuck yeah, cheers, let's go. Bob saying I like Quaffle and Reddick this week. Hey, you're right. You're right in line with us, man. Oh, yeah, honestly, if the whole IBT family is getting on the Quapo and Reddick train, I might have to sprinkle a little bit on both those outrights because, I think if you're going to take an outright, those are the ones to do it. And nothing else for Xfinity, ready to hammer little trucks?
Yeah, let's hammer some trucks, but I will, and I'll mention this beforehand too. I led to I was obviously talking about Dale Jr. In the back in that 88 car in September. I'm not going to be on that week, but whatever his fucking outright is, I'm going to make sure I get down on it before I leave the state of Pennsylvania that weekend. Doesn't matter what the fuck it is, I'm hammering it.
All right,
Keep
let's go.
that in mind. Clip that for the Bristol show in a couple months in September.
Okay. I got one truck series bet, Elliot. I only have one. This is another race. We got old Clint B fired up. He's ready to go. We got Butterbean in that number 1 car. Pretty interesting lineup. I just don't feel super comfortable with what the books are offering. Like all the placements. Like if you want to bet Corey Heim, you got to bet the outright nowadays. The top 5s are juiced. Even like I was talking about it on the Betting Pros podcast earlier this week that, hey, I think I want to get back invested with Nick Sanchez top 5 here. Well, Nick Sanchez top 5 everywhere is minus money. And I'm just like, all right, well, I'm not going to go in there. So instead of paying minus 110 for Nick Sanchez top 5, I'm going minus 120 at Caesars, 2.5 units overtime Majeski here for the Sanchez, baby. And I'm only sticking with this, and I'm only going with this. And I got nothing else for you. I apologize. This is all I got. He finished 3rd last year in his only start here. The Sanchez did. Majeski was 31st while still running here. Sanchez, 5th fastest in green flag speed. Majeski, 17th fastest in green flag speed. Sanchez, 5th fastest late in the run. Majeski wasn't even listed on the top fucking 28 for late run speed, so he didn't make the sheet. Sanchez just won Charlotte, 3-1 against Majeski this season with an average finish of 6.75 on the comps. Majeski's is 19.0. Some of that's been bad luck. We know he wrecked on like lap 2 of Kansas. Even still throwing that out, Sanchez is just dominated on these style tracks. I like him a lot here against Majeski. I love betting Sanchez in matchups here, Elliot. I'm going to go back to him here with a little Sanchez minus 120 over Mr. Majeski out of Ohio.
Yeah, I like that. And, having a light truck series card is really a smart thing for all of us, because if there's a series that, really plays off of the spirit of chaos, it's these fucking trucks every single week. And these, I have a couple outrights and top 5s to talk about. They loop into each other. You already mentioned 2 of the guys. 3 of the part-timers this week. You got Clint Boyer in the 7 truck for Spire. Obviously, the Kyle Busch is running, Connor Zilic is running. You've had guys succeed in that truck. Boyer ran the SRX last year, but in terms of NASCAR sanction stuff, this is his first one back since retiring from Stewart-Haas Racing. He's a plus 1,400. I think that truck is good enough. And, if we've seen Junior run really well, coming in just once a year in Xfinity, I think it's the same sort of situation that Boyer, maybe he's still got some blood in those driving hands there, whatever you want to call it. Caden Honeycutt is in the Nice number 45. He is at 10-1. Boyer was at 14-1 if I didn't mention. Nice has been kind of back and forth, but Honeycutt has had some good runs. And Brendan Queen, the Butterbean, back in the Tricon Garage number 1 at 20-1. Those are all on Bet Rivers. Do I love any of those outrights? Not really. I like their top 5s a lot more. All 3 of them over on Caesars, plus 140 for a top 5. Take your pick here, because I think at least 1, if not 2 of these guys definitely have a good shot at a top 5. Do I think all 3 make the top 5? Probably not. But I think that plus money for a top 5 and maybe taking a sprinkle on one of those outrights if you feel really confident in one of these guys getting their Honeycutt or Butterbean getting their first win, or Boyer making a triumphant return to victory lane. They're all worth looking at. It's going to be a fun storyline to watch, at least. So that's another part of it too, is you can bet for the sake of really trying to win money, do all the stats and stuff, or you can bet because I want to see Clint Boyer win a fucking race, and be able to win a little bit of money off of it.
It's going to be a storyline. It's going to be fun to see Boyer out there ripping. I would like to talk out his top 5 number with you, because this is the only other bet I even considered. I didn't lay down on it because like the thing about Boyer is he's good at this type of track. Like Kansas is arguably his best track. That is not a direct comp, but one of the closer comps we have here to Nashville. And also he hasn't raced a lot of trucks in his career, never raced at Nashville in a truck. However, you look at his Xfinity starts here, again, we're going almost fucking 20 years ago, 2 decades, when Ellie and I were 10 years old, but finishes 4th in 2008, has another run, finishes 2nd in 2008, 2007 finishes 2nd at Nashville, 4th in 2006, another race in 2006, second. Going all the way back 2005, almost 20 years ago, won a race at Nashville, 5th, another race in 2005, 2004, 3rd, 2004, fourth. Like this guy is good at this track. I think there's a reason he picked it. So
Yep.
I saw him plus 155 over at DraftKings for a top 5, and I thought about it. I would love to hear, any more thoughts from you or anyone in the chat, like their thoughts on Boyer. Because the only thing that deters me is like Dale Jr. still fucking lives this shit. Like Dale Jr.'s out there racing short tracks all the time in his late model. Like he's invested in the sport. Clint Boyer to me looks like he's just drinking a shit ton of beers nowadays. And like, does that take effect, Elliot? That's what because obviously some took effect with Boris said. I tried to get invested with that old fuck and that didn't work at all.
Well, I mean, Boris said at this point is over the hill. I think he's more over 60 now. I think
63, 63.
Yeah, I love some Boris said, but I do think it's probably time for him to hang it up. I'm really glad he got the Hendrick opportunity to be in a damn good car and go try to win another road course race. It just didn't work out, fam. We'll see you around the bend, Boris. But in terms of Boyer, one of those other, you may have even mentioned that finish, but there was a clip going around social media today from one of those Xfinity races where it's him, Kyle Busch, Johnny Benson in the number 1 Mikusuki car for James Finch, and Robbie Gordon back with his team. They're all battling for the win with 2 to go. Boyer goes and makes a move on Kyle Busch. Benson hits the back of him. All 4 of these guys wreck, and Michael Waltrip ends up winning the race from 5th place. But that just shows Boyer really knew how to mix it up in Nashville back in the day. I think it'd be one thing if he was in a mediocre truck. If you put Boyer in this Nice truck, I'm not sniffing with a 10-foot pole. It's because Honeycutt is on the up and up and has come close in this equipment before. But Boyer in what's probably a top 5, if not top 3 truck out of the garage, I think that he's still got enough skill to be able to give that a ride and at least give that top 5 a sniff. If not, pull the ultimate and go out there and take the checkered flag from the young guns. Well, and the couple old vets, but mostly young guns.
Yeah, I might give it another thought before, but check out my article tomorrow. Be out on Betting Pros. You'll see if I am down on Boyer or not. Chuck saying I think Boyer picked a track he likes, but that doesn't mean he fits to finish well, especially with the talent we have nowadays.
That's what I think every year when Junior steps out. I think, man, this guy, the first one back, he almost won at Richmond. Had a couple middling runs a couple of years, but he goes out there still in a good enough car. Again, if it was Junior in some rando car, put him in some rando Xfinity car, but they're going to give him one of the better trucks, same as they give Junior one of the better cars. He's got enough in there to go out there and run all right. Did I ever expect him to lead a bunch of laps and have a shot to win again like he did last year at Bristol? I really didn't, but he's gone out there even without a shot to win and gotten like 3rd place and 5th place at Homestead last year. Enough in a good car that there's still enough in there that he can get it done. So that's what makes me optimistic for Boyer, even though he's had a longer gap. He's only done a little SRX, like you said, maybe a couple more Busch Lights down the hatch than old Dale has been drinking the last couple of years. But I've got some faith that Boyer will at least make it interesting.
Yeah, I think we can definitely say a couple more Busch Lights down the hatch for sure than Dale. Bob, he's also a little afraid with Boyer. We'll see how I'm feeling. It'll depend how I wake up tomorrow if I end up betting Clint Boyer. But if you're feeling frisky and want to have a little fun, like that's a fun bet,
It's a shame that the race is going to be buried live on FS2. I think they're going to re-air it on FS1 at like 11 o'clock at night or something.
Yeah.
But it's a shame that I'm assuming a lot of people out there don't have Fox Sports 2 and are going to have to wait for that re-air.
Yeah.
It'll be an exciting race regardless, even if you have to wait, pull a Seth and turn your phone off for a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you would DVR it and watch it 2 days later.
Yeah, come on, Fox. If you're gonna pay to have the Truck Series, put it on fucking Fox Sports 1. Like, help the sport out a little bit. Come on. I don't know. All right, Ellie, let's go ahead. Let's round it out here. A little tire tiers. What do you say?
Let's roll with tire tiers, like you said. All right, so this week, the driver changes. We got Riley Herbst in the 15, like we mentioned. AJ Allmendinger is in the number 16. Corey Hyman, the number 50, prepared by 2311, obviously. And the old 66 is back with Chad Fincham, going to be back in the Cup Series for the first time, I think, since 2020 or 2021 there. I mean, that man can mash his foot to the pedal as much as he wants. I don't know that car is getting anywhere, but hey, good for him getting it back to the Cup Series.
Yeah, shout out Chad. Good to see him. And I'll be honest, dude. I think this like top tier. You're probably gonna fight me on one of them, maybe. I think this top tier is super chalk. Like I can just run through it if you'd like.
Go for it, man.
Larson to me still the 101 here. I would put Chastain second just because of his price tag, 9,000. You're getting a really good discount on a guy who I think is going to be fast. He's going to be chalky as fuck. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah,
but
that's a lower price than I thought. I'm just pulling up the prices now.
yeah,
We'll be all the way down to 9.
9K is good. Throw Denny up there. We like Denny at these styles of tracks. Chris Bell with the heater. He's been on 3 for 3 top 10s here at Nashville. So I think that's my top tier. I know you'd probably argue, do we put Truex? Do we put Chase? I'm not as high on those guys as this top 4 this week. So you can argue for it and Levy. I'm okay with it, but
yeah. Well, here's what we'll do. Normally we go like A to F pretty much straight through. Let's start to pick out some B's and C's, and we'll see what they feel like, whether we see the 19 and the 9, if we think they're high B's or if we think they're low A's.
Sure. Yeah. Who else do you think belongs in B, would you say?
I think you definitely got to put Blaney and Byron there for sure.
Yep. Just based on speed alone, and it's been a couple, I don't want to say down months for Byron, because he just had a runner-up finish a couple weeks ago at Iowa, but definitely hasn't had the speed he had earlier in the season. That being said, Nashville is usually where I see the Hevchev show up, so I do like him there as well.
Any argument for Suarez or Ty Gibbs in the Bs? I see Ty here is 5th in the total speed ranking on Dover and similar tracks here. Dover is the worst of those 5 races, but in a Gibbs car, I could argue it. Maybe they're both stretches, but I think they're both worthy of at least mentioning for a B.
Ty, I would be okay with. Finished 14th here last year. You'd have to think he improves that close to a top 10 this week. And yeah, as you said, top 5 in the Dover plus high speed mile and a half total speed ranking. So I'm cool with him. I don't know if I can get that far on Suarez. I like Suarez, but B would be pushing it. I'd say Brad, just out of pure speed, should be here. And honestly, Brad hasn't looked bad here. The last couple times we've come to Nashville as well. Had a couple stinker finishes back in his early RFK days, but 11th place last year, led a couple laps as well. So I'd throw Brad there. Where do you think?
Do we think Logano in the Bs?
Oh man, that's
a little tougher.
Yeah, Logano's real tough because he's had like pretty good runs here. I think he's 10th, 9th here in his first 2 starts at Nashville. 19th last year, just kind of didn't have it. Looking at the comps though, yeah, Logano's down there in the comps. I would say a C for me for Logano. Yeah. I just don't expect.
What I'm thinking here, probably Chase in the A, Truex in the B. Seems like a fair split.
Yeah. No, I'm cool. Yeah, Chase is a previous winner here. I keep forgetting that as well. So totally cool with that. And Chase also had some good late run speed at Dover there. I remember I was chasing a top 5 ticket with him, and he ended up passing Gragson and getting pretty close to Kyle Busch there for 4th though. So yeah, totally cool with Chase at the top tier. And I don't hate the price at Chase this week, 9,700. I like it better than Truex. So yeah, I'm cool with that. Who else do you think for? Anyone else for B that you can slide in there?
That's tough. There are a lot of B minuses, if anything. I don't know that I can make a strong argument for any of them. How about you?
I'd say Buescher C, like Buescher C. He hasn't been great at comps this year. That's why I couldn't even get invested with him at a high number over Tyler Reddick. But 10th in the Dover plus high speed mile and a halves. Let's see if he can translate some of that love for concrete over.
Dude, I'm going to say Bowman probably C as well.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Bowman, you could even make a low-key case for probably not a B, but I would say I'd like him better than Buescher this week, and probably even maybe Jim Suarez, but that's just my opinion. It's a 4 for 5 on the comp tracks, man. He's looked damn good at these other comps and looked good at Dover. What about these SHR guys? That's guy I kind of think where we're next. We also have the 23-11 guys. We got to put Tyler Reddick somewhere.
Yeah, probably Reddick in the C, maybe Bubba, and maybe Barry. I don't know otherwise.
Not Bubba for me. Bubba would be a high D, 15th in the Dover plus high speed mile and a half. I'd also lobby to move Tyler Reddick up, potentially maybe even above Suarez. To me, you're paying for him at 8,800. It's not a great price tag, but third in the comp track total speed rankings. Like, he's looked good. It's just, is he going to get the finishes? I'll say this, Elliot. If Reddick starts on the pole or top 5, I probably don't want him because we know he's going to lose differential points probably. So I guess that's the thing with him. It's just kind of a wait and see for me.
Yeah, in terms of the C's, do you want to put any SHR guys in the C's? Because I don't know that I don't know that I really can.
Gragson, 14th in the comp total speed rankings. I don't mind him at all. Josh Berry's gotten better at this style of track. Had a little bit of speed at Charlotte earlier this season. More compared to the other ones. So don't mind him there. Bob also saying 4 looked good in Xfinity and Harvick was good here. Yeah, Harvick was pretty good at Nash. So don't mind him there.
I think our next 2 guys in the D probably have to be the 8 and the 51.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And honestly, I just totally closed the tab on me, but I don't even know what Kyle Busch's price is, but it's probably inflated like it's been the last couple months. I feel like so. 8,200.
8,200. Yeah.
I can't pay that. Like, the thing with Kyle Busch is if he has speed, if Rowdy has speed, it's going to be like at Dover, and he's going to show it in qualifying, and then he's going to get you no differential points, and then you have the threat of him just fucking taking a shit on your lineup at any single moment. And I don't know if I can do that. He's 50-1 right now, Ellie. That's where we've gotten to with Kyle Busch right now.
Wow, that's insane. I hadn't realized his outright was quite that long.
Yeah.
I know you were kind of tough on Todd Gilliland. Maybe Todd G for a D here, or maybe even Austin Dillon.
I'm cool with Todd Gilliland. Throw Todd Gilliland there. I don't want to say
maybe McNasty too. Yeah. And you were tougher on somebody else. That wasn't Todd Gilliland.
Yeah. Well, my thing with Todd Gilliland is he just hasn't had like the pure speed on these comps, but it's just recent performance. You got to throw him in there. He absolutely needs to be a D. If you're not, you're fucking joshing yourself. Austin Dillon, no.
Austin Dillon in the F, you think? I think he's going at least in the Fs with that pedigree. Do we put Hyman D or do we put him in F? I think he's got to be on the board. But
I would say high F for me. I would put him above Dillon. He's going to be chalky, but in like fan tracks leagues too, if you're playing over on fan tracks in like a season long, he's the $5 foot long guy. You're only going to probably use him one time a couple times this season. So Hyman needs to be in lineups. I would also argue Cindric for a low D, high F. Cindric actually number 18 in those comp tracks that we've been looking at. So don't hate him. He had a kind of nice run at Kansas earlier this year with a little bit of speed. So don't hate Cinny.
One gateway too that's at least moderately similar, I feel like, even if it's shorter.
Yeah. Riley Herbst belongs on the board to me. Another $5 foot long guy over there on fan tracks that you can get invested with. Also Herbst 5,200 right now, all the way down there. Hasn't had a ton of success in the Cup Series, but he's raced twice here in this car this season. So I don't mind Herbst. Like we said, 3 for 3 in Nashville, top 10s for Xfinity at least.
That's true. Starting to get tougher here. I know I've been doing that a lot. McNasty's got to go somewhere. Hocevar and Briscoe probably have to go somewhere too.
Yeah. I think Carson Hocevar is definitely on the board. Maybe a high F, low D for me this week. 22 in the comp total speed rankings. Doesn't necessarily stick out here. We don't have a lot of data to go on him. I actually will say when I was looking at some of the Truck Series data, he was pretty good fucking here last year. So put him above Austin Dillon. Have some damn respect for Carson Hocevar.
Austin Dillon's been in the top 17 all 3
I don't
races.
give a shit. Andy Petree ain't there to bitch at people right now. Come on. No, Andy.
I don't know, man. I'm feeling that. I feel like I didn't get too much love on the Gilliland and Haley. I think this is my bet this week that I might even go reach and look at what his top 10 is just to have some extra coin on him.
You're a sicko. That's sick. That's sickening right there.
When have you heard me in the last 2 years be hyped on Austin Dillon for anything?
No, usually last year I would take a shot on Austin Dillon. I'd get the eyeball emojis in the chat going. 14-1 Elliot FanDuel if you want it. That's the price.
Well, 10. I might have to smash that too. Maybe a little half unit, John, on that.
Oh, you're sickening. I would throw freaking 10th of a unit at max. You're gross. Okay, so a couple things. I hate to do it. I think Zane Smith belongs on the board this week. This guy's good at this style of track. This is the one place Zane is really good. And I was hoping he would show up in the Truck Series. He's 3 for 3, finishing in the top 5 in the Truck Series at Nashville. I know it's not a ton of correlation, but 29th in the speed rankings at the comps this year as well. So I think if you're going to play Zane Smith, now's the one time to get invested with him. He's all the way down at 5,300 as well. So if I'm shooting my shot low, it's on him or Herbst probably. Briscoe belongs somewhere too. We got to put Briscoe.
I'm bringing up his Nashville stats because I think I was taking a peek at Briscoe and I think they're terrible, but I'll bring up his finishes real quick. I don't know if these crack the top 30. 31st, 34th, 31st. So I wanted to put him up there. I don't know that we can even put him on the board.
Oh, come on. Vibes are high right now for Chase Briscoe, dude. And
I'm not putting anybody behind him on the board though. So you can rank any of their Fs or Ds you want. Briscoe's the tail end of the line for me.
Wow.
He's got starting park numbers. He hadn't even finished on the lead lap here.
Dude, some of that's bad luck. Like you look at him.
Yeah, all right. He was like
in the comp total speed rankings. How many of those races did he finish? 2, 1.
He must have had an incident in 22 because he was like 30 some laps down. He was 2 laps down on speed last year, crashed out. Actually led 5 laps in 21, but then crashed out with about 80 to go. Maybe I'm weighing the finishes too much. I've got Austin Dillon's been top 20 all 3 years. Briscoe has been outside the top 30. They're both worth being ranked, I guess. The speed just hasn't been there, it looks like. That 5 lap slide could have been on a pit cycle for all I know. I haven't gone back that far to watch in 20 years.
I would say at least above Austin Dillon, depending where you want to put him. AJ Allmendinger belongs here. He was top 10 here. I can't remember if it was 22 or 23 off the top of my head. I think it was 23. And also, you look at what the 16 car has done in all of these style tracks. I'm going to go through their total speed rankings at these comp tracks. 33rd, 38th, 35th. 31st. There's 113th. That was at Dover. That was when AJ Allmendinger was in it. He likes this style of banking.
Did he end up with a top 10 in that race? I know he was damn close.
He almost did. He ran top 10 most of the day, though, if you remember. So
yeah, even was a surprise qualifying in the top 10 too. So that's a good point. Most similar comp running well. You got to have him at least considered.
6,500. It's a little expensive for a guy who's not racing every weekend. But
Allmendinger, he doesn't race every weekend, but he's a guy who's going to go out there and generally put in a good performance. Like he knows what he's doing. It's not a Ty Dillon in this car.
Ricky Stenhouse, doesn't he have fucking back-to-back top 10s right now coming into this race? Like we have to rank him because of that.
I think so. This F's getting a little crowded. We might have an argument to bump Heim up to the D's, honestly.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, throw Heim up to the D's. If you want to throw Hosey up there too, you can. I have a little respect for him. But yeah,
do that.
That's it for me. I'm not touching Legacy. It's a sad day when Eric Jones for a month now hasn't been ranked really. It's just fucking sad, man.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it with Legacy a little bit. They're keeping things in-house. They're not going with the technical alliance. So there's going to be some growing pains there. JHN and Jones are talented. There's going to be weeks where we're on them. It's just we got to see something. It's the same thing with guys winning. We got to see some consistent top 20s out of these guys. And it's Hemrick is kind of fallen out of favor, and so is Priest in terms of DFS darlings. We already touched on LaJoy, and what else is there to say about Harrison Burton? I think we pretty much got our board set here.
Hemrick, I think, belongs in there. He got a top 10 at Dover. It was
okay. That's right. He was the colleague that had a top 10.
Yeah, it was super fluky. And keep in mind, in the colleague car last year, Justin Haley, top 4 starter as well. So I think maybe Hemrick has a little bit of speed here, 28th in the comp total speed ranking. So I don't hate him. He's the last one though. I have no love for Finchy, no love for JHN or Eric Jones. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I did. I mean, that was strategy helped that top 10 for Hemrick at Dover.
Oh,
but
fuck yeah.
You got to have the ability to hold it up there. It wasn't that dog shit that he lost the top 10 after that. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Been a fun one here, Elliot. We've gone almost an hour and 40 minutes, so always great pleasure chopping it up with you, man. And hopefully we can keep the winning ways going, my friend.
I feel good, even for bets that you don't feel good about. I feel good about them, and I feel good about all the love and support and interaction we get with the IBT family here. Super awesome, and that's why there were some times in these first couple of years, especially when we were doing them taped, where a 55-minute show felt like it was my whole night. And sitting here for an hour and 40 minutes, it went by like that.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Hopefully we got you guys out of watching the president election. If
Yeah, is it
not,
over yet? We can talk a little longer if we want to wait till it's
yeah,
over.
yeah. If not, hopefully you guys caught us on the replay. We greatly appreciate all the support here. We're making a push to 1,200 subscribers by Pocono. We'll do some more giveaways. It's asking a lot. It's asking a lot. Get your girlfriends, get your grandma's phone. I don't care if they fucking watch. Just hit that subscribe button, baby. Elliot, thanks, man. Always a pleasure to cut it up with you, man. And excited to see you here in a couple weeks as well at Pocono.
No doubt about it. Pocono's right around the corner. Next week, though, we got the Chicago Street Race we can look forward to. Get some, hopefully some dry weather and what's going to be another wild one. But it's going to be a hell of a weekend down in Music City for everyone down there and for us watching back home. Triple header weekend. Gotta love it. Best luck on your bets, and thanks for riding on down the back road with us tonight.